Hello, hello. I am Lisa,
And I'm Cryss.
and this is episode 60 of the Three of Skeins podcast.
Again.
Take two.
See what happened was. You might notice that in the thumbnail, we're not wearing what we're wearing today. And that is because our internet was janky yesterday. And what happens, we see a little thing on our screen when the internet's going out, so we know there's an issue. And yesterday, the little icon was there for a minute. And what happens when the icon is on the screen? We know that we're going to get audio, but the video is going to freeze. Mm-hmm. And so we stopped and we watched back what we had. And there was a part where we was just talking, but we was on the screen like... So, yeah. We're filming again. So we're not going to pretend this is at all spontaneous.
Yeah.
So, Lisa, why don't you show us what went on with your shoulder seam?
Well, let me tell you. You see, what happened was I got really obsessed with getting that shoulder seam done. And I stayed up way too late doing it. So the long and the short of it is I put that shoulder seam together. I don't know quite how many times, maybe like 6. But I did something wrong differently each time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so I installed it inside out. I installed it backwards so that the V was coming like that. Yeah, I didn't tell you that part because that hadn't happened yet. I did that last night. Mm-hmm. V was going backwards. I discovered that I had wanted to do an I-cord bind off. I was going to do a 3-needle I-cord bind off. And I discovered after I tried it on the shoulder seam, which is a funny story, I didn't like the look of it. It was too wide and bulky because I was worried that I would be hiding that detail with all the texture I added to the top. But no, not so much. Come to find out, I should not knit after certain hours of the night.
And no matter how many times I tell her this, she doesn't accept it.
It's okay, if I'm up that late, there's a problem. So...
Unless she's had coffee.
Yeah, then it's like, woohoo!
She's pretty perky.
I don't usually have coffee or really any caffeinated beverages after about 2:00 in the afternoon. And I had a bad coffee crave the other night. And so about 5:00, I had a cup of coffee. And you know when, as you're doing something, you say to yourself, it's
not a good idea.
This is going to be a problem. So 6 hours later... 8 hours later, I'm just like, la 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 la. And Crystal comes down and she's like, it's like 1:00 in the morning, maybe. It's like 1:00 in the morning. And I'm just like, yeah. She was like, I came downstairs, all the lights were off. But anyway, I didn't like that. And it was the wrong color. I wasn't quite paying attention, and it wasn't supposed to be done in the contrast color. So I had to go back and take a look at the picture. I was like, sometimes something feels wrong. So I took a look at the original, and I was like, yeah, no, I don't think the shoulder seams have contrast detail on them. No, don't. Okay. So I ripped that out. So let's just say I ripped out those shoulders, let's say 6-7 times. Happily, it wasn't really a long thing too much. But eventually, I got them together. So now I'm so happy and excited because I have the back and front sewn together.
What's happening here? What is all this?
Oh, this is a row counter. It's a chain style row counter. I really like it because it hooks into the work. And every time I come to it, I move it up.
I was like, how are we doing that? Okay.
Yeah. And that way I don't forget to click it or put it down or whatever. And I was able to start one of the sleeves. So here is my line.
Accessories.
No, actually, this is a nice one. And crocheters can use this too. Instead of hooking it into the work, you put it on the hook. And every time you get to the end of the row, you move it up. Well, you are too young for that type of attitude.
So you sleeve.
So here is my sleeve. I guess this is the right sleeve. And there's my little line of contrast color.
Looks a lot better than the pink would have.
I do too.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm really in love with it. And I like it that it's variegated, it's bronze. There's like some oomph to the color. I would have felt like it would have been dull in just a plain chocolate brown. It wouldn't have been bad, but I think it would have been dull. And I feel like this has some pizzazz to it. So I will be doing my sleeves this week. Hopefully I'll be able to get through both of them this week. I don't know, but we'll see. And I'm doing decreases here. I'll do it the side I pinned. Show you the side I pinned. So as always, when I have to keep count of decreases, I just stick a pin in them so I can count them and I get an accurate count. So I'm decreasing on both ends of the sleeve, and I will do that until my sleeve is the right length. And it's going to be a wide sleeve, but I did not go with a sleeve as wide as they recommended. I made it an inch narrower. I just like that better. But overall, I'm very happy. And after the sleeves, I will have a neckline detail, and then she'll be done. Woo-hoo. This is my Dofuku. Very excited.
It must be nice to still have the mojo.
You know what? The break helped me. It did.
I thought mine would help me. And it did a little bit. I mean, I got my top that I'm working on started. But we've had this conversation already.
Yeah.
I'm just feeling a little like, I called it the ennui.
Yes.
And I'm just feeling like a little creatively like
bored.
Out of juice.
Yeah. That was a conclusion we came to before that. You know,
yeah,
maybe a little bored.
I mean, the Cliff Note version of this discussion is that I want to try slightly more challenging projects, and I want to do more color work and not be afraid of shaping. I really haven't been wanting to do the math, quite frankly. And it's not even that it's hard. I just feel like, you got to get it right. And the conclusion we came to yesterday is that maybe I would start with a skirt and just work on getting that waist to hip shaping right, because that is something I still struggle with when I'm making skirts. And I do a lot of fudging, and it just kind of, I make it work designer.
Yeah.
I get it to go down the runway, but
it's not fun.
Exactly. Yeah. And you had mentioned a resource for that.
Yes, there is a really nice article in Knitting Magazine that I think anybody could use, because it is just about how you get the waist to hip ratio right on a skirt. It also includes a skirt pattern.
They're just knitting. They don't do sewing.
They don't do sewing, no.
I will probably take a look at that, because, there are more resources for knitters and crocheters when it comes to garment construction. Like, crocheters have access to a lot of patterns, but discussion of construction, again, I might harp on this a little bit, but there's just more resources for knitters. But thankfully I have access to a knitter who can point me to these resources, because I don't know how I would find them on my own.
Oh, and I found that by accident, because I just had liked the skirt, and when I was looking, I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's a whole discussion of how to get that waist-to-hip ratio right.
Yeah, because that's a little tricky for me. I mean, I either, like I said, I fudge it, or I just make it big enough for my hip. As long as it fits my hip, I don't worry about the waist too much. But I do want to actually feel comfortable shaping a garment any way that I like, so that I can make the kinds of styles that I like to wear.
Yeah.
And I also want to, like I said, I want to be comfortable with all the different types of color work. So I want to be able to do intarsia and mosaic and fair isle and tapestry, and just have all of them in my toolbox. So I can use them whenever I want. And I know these are things that I need to work on, because I feel like I kind of maxed out where I am right now in crochet, and I have to take that step now to increase my skills. So I feel like maybe I just got a little bored with the things I was making. Because you know what? Keeping the shaping and things really simple has been working.
Yes.
It has been working really well.
And it's not like you're making the same thing over and over again.
Right.
Everything you make, one looks very different than the other, even if the basic shape is the same.
So I'm happy. I'm really happy with everything I've made this year. I really am. Things are cute. They're fitting well. I learned stuff. But now it's just time to like step it up a little bit.
Yeah. I think you're right. And because we both kind of have plans in that direction. I also want to like do like a study of the different sweater shapes so that I can get very comfortable, remaking the patterns as I see fit. Or even if I don't want to use a pattern, just making something. But if I want to do a top-down raglan, okay.
Well, you have that book, 6,000 Plus Pullover Possibilities.
Oh, yeah, girl.
That book is the bomb. Edited by Melissa Leitman. And she just breaks apart each section of a sweater. And so you can do different shapes of sleeves, different types of necklines. And she basically, it comes down to increasing and decreasing, just like the shawl video by Nimble Needles.
Yes.
Once you know where to place your increases and decreases, shaping is your oyster.
Yeah, you have the keys to the kingdom, right?
But yeah, that's where I am. So I haven't worked on my top since we filmed last week.
You don't have to say it like,
I know,
you were naughty. You were not naughty.
I feel naughty.
Okay, you were not naughty.
But I think I will finish it. I think I'm just gonna, work at whatever pace I'm working at and just hopefully finish it by the end of the year, which is in a few weeks. Oh my God. And then take a little time to figure out what I want to start working on next year. And I had mentioned that I might even like work from a pattern and just pick a pattern that has a skill I want to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And go from there.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think, we should let everybody know we're moving towards doing 2 videos a week.
We trying.
Our equipment wants to act funny, but it's okay. So look out on Fridays for a notification. It'll just be something fun, not terribly long, but I think you guys will enjoy them. Our next, I guess today. Oh my gosh, I forgot that we had a video go out today. It's Friday. We normally film on Thursday. So just keep an eye out for last week's video now.
Why did you tell them what it's about?
I'm trying to remember.
Hibernating?
Yes. I got inspired by the Stephen West Hibernidalog. I'm like, oh, what did I talk about? I saw this picture, right? Mm-hmm. Actually, it wasn't even this picture. I saw him doing a video about it, and he was wearing this shawl. And I fell in love. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make that puppy.
That is a lot of color work for you.
It is. And it's actually mosaic, so it's very mellow color work. Mm-hmm. You only work with one color at a time in each row. And like you said, sometimes you want to play with your skills a bit and just do something you don't ordinarily do. And I'm just going to follow the pattern. So that's also something I don't ordinarily do. So what I'm sharing in that video is how I chose my colors, what my mindset was, and how you can choose colors that will work for,
yeah, that's 5 colors. I feel like that's a lot to figure out.
Yeah.
To make them all like look good together.
Oh, yeah. And I wanted to focus on knitting out of my stash because I know I do this. I will buy one glorious skein just because it was beautiful and I couldn't leave without it. But then when I get this one skein home,
what to do?
And a 5 skein shawl is brilliant for using up those glorious skeins. Anyway, so that's what the video is about.
Back with you not remembering.
Yeah, girl. Why do you think I keep taking notes?
Okay, so in yesterday's version, we had talked about our respective weekly wins because Lisa had made, she was drinking some hot chocolate and she struggled with making some hot chocolate that tasted good. And then she found a recipe.
I did. I found this video, right? And it was a guy making French style hot chocolate. So I followed the directions. And oh my God, my chocolate came out good. It was just absolutely delicious. It was so good. I had forgotten to put sugar in it, and it still tasted good. I went down and put some sugar in it.
But if it tasted good without the sugar, why did you add the sugar?
Because it tasted even better with the sugar. But you know what? It really didn't need very much.
Mm-hmm.
But I had been struggling making hot chocolate, and then we had gotten these chocolate bombs, and that made my hot chocolate even worse because they didn't dissolve entirely and all of that. But I will include a link to the video if you want to make some really great hot chocolate this winter, because here it is December and winter is finally coming.
Less said about that, the better. Winter is hard for me. I like summer.
I'm a fall person.
She likes moderate temperatures. Give me the heat.
Oh.
Although, I mean, summers have been getting a bit
they've been
hotter,
getting brutal.
So,
what was your weekly win? I forgot what it was. Oh, that's right. Go for it.
So I went to take some books back to the library, and I lucked into a used book sale at the library. I used to go to them all the time, but I haven't been going to them recently. I just started going back to them this year, as a matter of fact.
Panorama.
They have gotten smaller. There are just less books, less people, and it's been harder to find things. But Mom was the one with the eagle eye, and she found a couple of really good crochet books. And so one is 63 Crochet Cable Stitches by Darla Sims.
Mm-hmm.
And it just has a bunch of patterns, which are really cute. And I have a cable pattern book, but these are different.
Yeah.
So now I have now I have no excuse to not do cables, to be perfectly honest.
Now the cable is your oyster.
Pretty much. But this is one. And then the other is the Filet Crochet book by Cryss Rankin. And it is more than 100 elegant but simple country lace projects. Why do I keep saying products? Oh my God. I'm having one of those days. But I have wanted to try my hand at filet crochet. Specifically, I want to try making a garment that's going to need a lining. Or I'll wear it over. Oh, you know what I could do though? I could do just like a simple vest that's meant to be worn over a shirt.
Yeah.
And then I don't have to worry about a lining.
Oh, that would be so pretty.
But it's got this is some elaborate mess. Look at that. I don't know if I can pull that off. Are there birds flying? Yeah.
Yes, there are.
There's a whole lot happening. But so I would probably start with something a little simpler. But I feel like once I learn, so this is that same pattern finished. That's really
beautiful.
Pretty. I feel like once I learn how to read the charts, it's all double crochet stitches, so it shouldn't be complicated to actually do them. But I'll have to learn how to read these charts. And then again, just another new skill that, it's falling right in line with like my mindset at the moment.
Yeah.
Just trying to learn new skills so I can make a very diverse wardrobe. I don't have to feel like I'm making the same thing over and over again.
Because I could see you making like a summer tee with filet inserts, maybe on the sides or on the bottom.
You're getting ahead of me now. Hold up.
I
have not made one stitch.
I'm imagining already. I'm like, oh my God.
Give me a minute.
The things you could do.
But yeah, so Mom found both of these books and I was really excited. Mm-hmm. So our let me tell y'all though, we're all in a really bad habit of not carrying cash. And library sales usually run by nice little old ladies who do not have any sort of credit card technology. And there's no ATM in the library. So Mom sat with the books while I ran down the road to Wawa.
I didn't know you had to go all the way to Wawa.
And I got some cash so we could bring our books home with us.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, don't do that. Try to keep a few bucks in your purse.
Yeah, at least a 10 spot,
But yeah, that was our little adventure.
But you know what? I think you should also let people know, don't be fooled by what you see on the cover of the book. Like, this book is about blankets and pillows.
Yeah,
but there's no reason you can't translate this into a garment.
As a matter of fact, again, at library sales, I found like a treasure trove of Vanna White pattern books. Because, especially in the 80s, Vanna White was like hardcore crochet designer. She put out like a lot of books. And I used them as stitch dictionaries because I don't plan to make blankets. She does a lot of blanket books. But I was able to get them in used book sales for very reasonable prices. But it's just, again, a treasure trove of design ideas, but that I can translate into anything that I want.
Exactly.
So, because I don't do blankets. Y'all who have the patience for blankets, bless. I could not. I tried one. And, I got it to a decent size, and then I just stopped. I was just like, I can't do this.
I'm over it
anymore.
I always salute those people that do those California King bedspreads.
Like, and with the Grafgan, so it's like a whole scene playing out or a portrait or something.
Yeah.
Bless.
Amazing.
That could not be me, though. It's amazing to see.
Yeah.
But please don't make me do
And
that.
I would pay top dollar for them.
Please don't make me do
but
that.
I wouldn't do it myself, no.
I would feel like Rumpelstiltskin, like just forced to turn straw into gold.
Yeah.
Like, oh no.
Oh,
Heavy crochet stillskin.
That's super sad.
Put that on a t-shirt.
I know.
But yeah, so that was my little weekly win. And then I got some yarn. And yesterday she was all outraged over it, but I'm sure she's better now.
I'm better now, but I was outraged. Wait till you hear the tale of how this yarn came into being.
I ain't do nothing. Look, less traveled yarn is a dyer that I particularly like, right? Because a lot of hand dye yarn out there, but I really like her colors. I've used her sock base, which is called 757 sock, to make a couple of things. And the sweater I was wearing yesterday.
The slutty cardigan.
Yes, the slutty cardigan. But she was having a sale. And I'm subscribed to her newsletter. So I got actually 1 day early notice about the sale. 30% off. 30 people. So I didn't buy anything. I was like, you know what? Because we had gone shopping to a couple of small yarn stores. At the time I got the email, we were planning those trips. So I was like, I'm going to get some yarn at the stores. Not going to buy anything online. So that was Wednesday. Didn't buy anything Wednesday. Didn't buy anything Thursday. Didn't buy anything Friday. After that, my superhuman resolve crumbled.
It just cracked.
It did. And the sale was still going on. So I was just like, okay, let me just look. And I just got a couple of things. But I didn't want to induce anyone else to spend money.
Induce away.
Y'all heard that, right?
You
just heard her say induce away. So next time she tell y'all I made her spend money, the quote is going to be induce away.
All I'm saying is I didn't even know the sale was happening. That's all I'm saying.
So I got a little bit of yarn. I actually have some of this yarn already. It's called Arcadia Light. As 100% merino, not super wash, which will be new for me. We'll see how that goes. 214 yards, 50 grams. And this is the chocolate neon collection.
Look at the depth that she got.
I know. Oh. So this is the natural yarn color. And then she used, I think her name is Sarah, used neon dyes to get these three lovelies.
So she dyed over that natural dark brown that the yarn came.
So I actually have one of each of these already. And last time I ordered it was 20% off. So I haven't paid full price for this yarn yet. But it's full price is $20 a skein. So this time I got it for $14. And now I'm pretty sure I have enough. I have 2 of each color. So I'm probably just going to do a cute little striped sweater, keep it simple. And then I always have that debate about adding enough to the cart to get the free shipping. But with 30% off, I was like, yeah, we're going to go for it. Okay.
Or she could have invited her mother and sister to the sale. We could have ordered together and look, free shipping. Yes.
Y'all was sleeping.
Slight recriminations, but
right?
I'm better today.
This is better.
It is.
So I got these 2 as well. And this is not the sock base. This is called Paloma. And it's a 90-10 merino and silk. And it makes the sock base feel like burlap. I'm like,
and it's not hard.
And like, how hard, y'all? How are we doing that? This is like gossamer. So silk in my yarn might be my new thing.
And you know, it has a little bit of a sheen to it.
I love it. I think it's beautiful. So this is barnwood. And this one is cottonwood gin. But I love how they look together.
That's pretty together.
And then I have some of her sock base as well. And this is Footnote. And I thought these 3 looked amazing together. So those might be a thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm happy.
Those are gorgeous.
So that was my little bit of yarn that I bought. Mm-hmm. That Lisa's not bitter about at all.
Nope, not me. Not me.
So instead of pretending I don't know, I'll just say, so why did you tell us about the article you found about a new kind of bind off?
Oh, okay. Yes. So we were in Sit and Stitch on Sundays. I host a Sit and Stitch on Sunday. It's just a little get together on Zoom where we get together, work on whatever we're working on, and talk a lot. But one of the Sit and Stitchers brought up that she had just learned the Chinese Waitress cast on and that she was really loving it. And it's going to be her go-to cast on, you know, from now on. And she was a dedicated long tail cast on person. Like my go-to is a long tail cast on. So we were taking a look at it and we were all like, oh, that is very pretty. So I found an article on, I think it's, on Knit Freedom's blog. It's the Chinese Waitress cast on. There's full instructions for how to do it. What's nice about it is that it's nice and stretchy and it looks the same on both sides and it goes perfectly with garter stitch. So you'll have that bump going across on both sides rather than a bump on a chain or a, you know, whatever. You don't have to pick a side. But what I did not know is that somebody had come up with a cast off that matches it. So you can have a nice stretchy cast off that also matches the cast on. So, you know, things will look the same at top and bottom. So it's actually quite nice. So you can check that out there. Yes, it's called Chinese Waitress. Sounds a little tiny bit racist, but
supposedly someone learned it from
a Chinese waitress, but would have been nice to, you know, get her name, but you know. What can you do? But like I said, Knit Freedom breaks it all down. There's a couple of videos so that, you know, whichever way you're more comfortable learning, there it is. But do check that out.
So I came across, actually I saw someone linked to this article on a Reddit forum, which I don't spend an ungodly amount of time on. Really, I don't. But I believe she's an Irish knitter, and on her blog she was talking about what she calls the Heirloom Myth. And she's basically just saying that it's not really realistic anymore to expect your knitted garments to last forever because we're just not knitting the way we used to. We're not making yarn the way we used to. And that basically, you know, wearing stuff, you have a choice between wearing things and preserving them.
Yeah.
But she mentioned like one thing that's changed over time is gauge, and that people are just knitting looser. And I've always said that the hook size that's recommended for crocheters is usually like way bigger than what I would use for a given yarn.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't know that was like a trend also in knitting.
It is.
And things you make at a looser gauge are just going to have more wear and tear on them. But look at her article. It was really interesting. And I told Lisa I found it validating, because I feel like there's a lot of pressure to use the scratchy wools, non-super wash, and, merino with nylon in it or what have you, because you want these items to last. But I don't expect the things to last forever and ever and ever. If I get some good wear out of them, I enjoy them, that's fine. And because I have always preferred to keep a larger wardrobe. Lisa likes to keep a well-stocked pantry.
Yes.
I like to keep a well-stocked closet.
That's how I can mysteriously manifest soap whenever I want.
So if you have a larger wardrobe, you're not wearing each garment as often.
Yeah.
And so I have 100% merino dress that I made it about a year ago, and I've only worn it like maybe 3 or 4 at this point. So that's also helping it not get as much wear and tear. So between mine not having to wear each thing as much, and the fact that I'm expecting wear and tear, just like I expect wear and tear on the clothes I buy from stores. I just found it like freeing, gave me permission to just go ahead and use my merino.
And you know what? I know I come across as anti-merino. I am not anti-merino. I like merino as much as the next person. But I'm more in the vein of trying to choose the right yarn for each project. There are merinos that are just fine for garments. And like you said, if you're not wearing it all the time, you will just get more wear out of it. But sometimes the yarn is just not, like, I've swatched many things that just weren't right for the garment I wanted to make them out of. And it wasn't even just the type of yarn it was. It could have been the construction. It could have been, you know what I mean? It just wasn't right. So that's where I try to match what I'm doing to how I want the thing to be. Do I want it to be more structured? Do I want it to hold a shape better?
But for me, the wear on it, like, people are very adamant about using sock yarn with nylon in it because your socks will get holes. And socks are more hard wearing garments. Yeah. They're going to have your full body weight on them. They're going to have friction in the shoe and on your foot. So that makes sense to me. So I think if I made socks, unless I want to spend all my time darning, I would probably, exclusively reserve sock yarn for that. But that the lack of nylon and the wear and tear that might lead to really doesn't factor in for me when it comes to like just making a sweater or whatever. And honestly, I worry about mending. I worry about darning because, when crochet falls apart, I don't yet know what to do with it. That's just another skill I have to acquire.
Yeah.
So down the road, eventually, some of my things will show some wear and I will learn how to address that. That's just like one of the goals. So this conversation comes up a lot for Lisa and I because she really likes a hard wearing yarn. She likes fisherman's wool. She likes,
not for everything, but
Icelandic yarn.
For certain things. Yes.
I ain't messing with that Lopi.
Yeah. Whoa. She was a hard no on the Lopi. I just have a wider range of yarns that are acceptable. But it's turning out that I can't use all the yarn I thought I could because I bought some yarn with some lanolin in it and it made my hands break out in a rash. So I have limitations too. Although, like I said, I'm not 100% committed to the super softest yarns.
And I am.
And that's okay.
Although I will say this. Since I have been making and wearing my sweaters, I'm adjusting a little bit better to but you will see me sometimes some of my sweaters So I am getting used to them, but I'm just not entirely used to them yet. But when I say getting used to, like, I mean getting used to a non-super wash roll instead of a super wash roll.
Right.
I'm still not going hardcore, like,
Yeah.
what they knit with in Iceland.
And I've been opening up myself to other fibers. So I have been loving cotton. Just, oh my
cotton
gosh.
top I made this summer. I used all these different cottons, and I was just like, I knew I liked cotton.
Yes. I like cotton, I like linen, and I like linen and silk like nobody's business. So
I have some 100% linen, and I want to do something special with it, so I have no idea what I'm going to make with it yet. But yeah, I'm really excited about my linen yarn.
So there's different aspects to softness, and wool's not always appropriate for everything. I'm just going to say it. But getting back to the point you were making about how people did used to work just finer, that is absolutely true. When people look at extant examples of old stockings, old sweaters, they are knit at a very fine gauge.
I don't know how you would make a stocking
very, very, very fine
at a bigger gauge, because it really needs to.
Well, we make our socks at a much bigger gauge than people used to make their stockings at.
Even you?
Yes. Their knitting was finer, much finer. They could get some things. They did like 26 stitches to the inch, 18 stitches to the inch, because they were knitting on
sewing thread?
on little wires. They were working on little wires. Yeah, and
you should try that.
Oh, no, thank you.
Not make a whole thing, but like a swatch.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, they were very fine. And I've noticed that when I look at European knitting magazines, I don't see sweaters made in worsted. It's DK and below. Mostly DK and sport, for like a regular normal sweater. A 4.5 millimeter needle is generally the biggest needle they're using. So they kept that tighter tradition of knitting.
I'm waiting for crochet to catch up, because a big part of the problem is this very persistent belief that crochet is stiff and it doesn't move. So people tend to use bigger hooks as a way of
creating drape.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that. It's a matter of composition, the stitch you're using, your hook size. There are a lot of things that will go into the drape of the fabric that you're making.
Right.
You don't have to use a 5 millimeter hook with finger and weight yarn. You just don't. And honestly, it was one of the reasons I stopped making crochet shawls, because so many of the patterns were telling me to use like ginormous hooks. And I'm like,
what did you use when you made this one?
I don't remember. I want to say,
because I know there's a fingering weight yarn.
Yeah. It might have been 4 millimeter, which is the biggest I've ever used on a fingering weight yarn.
Yeah, I don't think you use that size anymore.
Not now.
You're like
once I stopped using patterns, I went down in my hook size.
Yeah.
But the advice is just but specifically for shawls, because there's something that are meant to drape. People are using really big hooks, and holes. I didn't like holes. What I would see is that the pictures would look good when you saw the shawl from a distance, but when you pulled in tight, all you saw were holes. Y'all can go down your hook size a little bit. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
And you know what? A lot of that stiffness also comes from the acrylic. Acrylic is just stiffer.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because it's usually very slippery, soft kind of.
Yeah, it's slippery, soft, but it doesn't. The fabric it makes doesn't drape, I guess.
Especially a worsted weight. Let me tell y'all.
Yeah.
I have some worsted weight things that I made out of acrylic that are
stiff. Yeah, it's just the nature of the fabric.
But when you see it in a skein or in a ball, you think
If it feels soft,
yes.
you think the fabric is going to be soft.
Yes.
No.
You stitch, you learn.
Yeah. And that's it. You stitch, you'll learn. We're putting that on a t-shirt. I'm going to write that down so I don't forget.
But yeah, that's just what it is. But yeah, that's what's been going on with us.
Yeah.
And making things. And are you watching anything right now?
Oh, I just finished Wednesday Addams. Loved it.
I just started Alice in Borderland.
Oh, how are you liking that? I'm going to take a look.
Good. Episode 3 was brutal. Like, my heart is broken. But it's really good. Did you finish the elves?
No.
Because Prime goes away on the 13th. We do free trials.
Yeah.
So,
all right, I'll finish up my elves.
We have a date certain where we will not have access to that service anymore.
I think I'm up to like episode 4.
Yeah, you got to the 13th.
All right, I'll get on that. I have some hardcore stitching to do, so I'll stitch the elves.
I finished.
I got distracted by Wednesday.
Lord of the Rings. The
Rings of Power.
Yeah, just the elves. That's a lot. It's a mouthful. So just go with the elves. I was not impressed, but it's okay.
You know what? I was saying before, this is one of those things that they made it for people who are like mad up in the lore.
You know what? My question watching it was like, who is this for?
Yeah.
Because my issue was that there wasn't a whole lot of tension because we know how all of these characters end up.
Mm-hmm.
We know how Gandalf ends up. We know how Sauron ends up. We know how Galadriel ends up. We know how Elrond ends up. You know what I mean? So I felt like there's like a hamster wheel feeling. It's just like, I already know how this goes.
And I was excited when I saw, like I said, I saw the Dwarven city actually inhabited, because when we see it in Lord of the Rings, it's a ruin.
But I didn't need that.
Because
I know what happens. I know exactly why and how it ends up being destroyed. So for me, like,
but that scene when they're outside the door, it doesn't say speak friend and enter yet.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, that's why it said speak friend and enter. They used to have a much closer relationship. And so that's the type of thing I'm getting. I love seeing Numenor, because we've only heard of Numenor.
I didn't even remember Numenor.
And that's what I'm saying. I think that's the person that, because the lore master.
That's real niche.
It is. It is. I think
like I don't need to see the discovery of Mithril. Like,
yeah, I forgot about that. We learned the origin of Mithril.
Was anyone wondering about that? Were you curious? Did you want to know? Oh, where did this Mithril come from? I didn't. But I was just like, oh, elven metal, cool, whatever.
Then it echoes down because now we know that eventually Frodo will have a Mithril vest, and now we know where the Mithril came from.
I didn't need to know that any more than I need to know which sheep my yarn comes from. It's cute and all, but yeah.
But anyway, as you see, it's for 2 different people.
I did like the original Lord of the Rings trilogy and The Hobbit. I do like those stories. I probably read them in high school. But this is just a little bit more than I needed. And for it to like go on for years, like a television series would, side eye.
Wow. I understood more better why Elrond had those feelings about Isildur. They knew each other, and he felt like Isildur really effed up.
Yeah,
but he held on to it for 3,000 years.
We knew that Isildur. Like we know what Isildur's gonna do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And yeah, I have some feelings about Isildur too. Let me tell you. I didn't need this series for that. You know what I mean? I have some strong feelings about Isildur because he could have nipped this in the butt.
Yes, he could have. It's more of a why done it, not a who done it.
But and a little bit of a how done it.
And a bit of a how done it.
So if you wish to be steeped in the lore and hear a lot of Elvish, it might be for you. Me not so much.
And I did like that the elves were portrayed more as people rather than these ethereal beings that never get dirty no matter what they're doing.
I saw one of the elves dirty. I was like, how'd that happen?
Yeah.
My Legolas never looked like that.
No, he didn't. Never once. No matter what was going down.
Okay. But I also think that was a function of elves having more. They weren't dirty because they had more contact with humans. I mean, the ethereal portrayal, as they kind of withdrew from the other races of men, they really were only living the way elves live and didn't interact with anyone else. So they were mythical to the other creatures at that point because they just had less contact
with them. Yeah.
So, but again, I didn't need that.
So I'm liking it more.
Yeah.
But I do find that the pace of the story is a bit slow.
Woo!
The pace of the story is slow.
That it is. The whole Harfoot thing, I just feel like there's a little too much Harfoot happening. But
but that is the origin of Gandalf's connection to hobbits and why he's so close to them. His first friend on Earth was a hobbit.
That I wondered about these things. Yeah. I just kind of took it at face value that Gandalf had this close connection to the hobbits, that he saw something in them that most other people didn't see.
Right.
And then plus he had his specific visions about the role that Bilbo was going to play. He knew there was a reason. If you read The Hobbit, there was a reason Bilbo had to go on that trip.
Right.
So all of that was already baked into the cake. I didn't need to go back to literally the day Gandalf met the first hobbit. Yeah. So yeah, it's a niche, and if you in that niche, enjoy. You know what? It's not done poorly. It's just I wasn't interested in this particular story.
Yeah. Because I don't think it's done poorly either. Like I said, it has a couple of pacing issues that I would have moved a little bit quicker on. But otherwise, I enjoyed it. And like I said, for me, it expanded my understanding. Because I have not read the Silmarillion. I
think I have a copy if you want to.
I'll check it out. Because I'm lore-ish, but I didn't go that hard. But I have read The Hobbit and the 3 volumes of Lord of the Rings. So this just brought to light and expanded my understanding. But anyway, that's what
it's vaguely related to what we're talking about just because I was watching it while I was crocheting.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're just going to shoehorn it in.
Yeah, there you go. And I think that's it for me.
Yeah. I'm really glad we got through the whole episode.
Yeah.
Yesterday, y'all don't know.
It was rough.
It was like,
we were like, you know what? Let's try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for joining us. We will see you next week, and keep an eye out for our Friday videos.
And stay stitching and learning.
Yes.